Welcome to the next episode of the Building Sites podcast. I'm joined by Spencer Henry, a member of the Institute of Clerk of Works and Construction Inspectorate. I'm going to talk about CPD, why it matters, the difference between desktop and immersive CPD, and new challenges that we face on a daily basis. Spencer, thanks for coming a long way. I know you've driven significant distance to be with me this morning, and I do appreciate it. And Manchester showed its best in terms of traffic as well, and parking and all these other bits. So all challenges aside, we're here now, and it's a great opportunity to talk about a subject matter that is actually important to all of us, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
And that is CPD, continued professional development. And you're setting yourself a challenge, I think is a fair way to put it, that is going to set a bar in terms of CPD and what CPD looks like. Before we get into that, tell us a little bit about you in terms of what you do, generally speaking, all the different avenues of your working life, and then how you came to understand the gap in the market for this.
Yep. So generally, like I say, I'm a member of the Institute of Clerk of Works. In terms of site visits and those sorts of things, I do site visits, do inspections for various types of work from time to time, as well as working within areas of standardization. So I get involved in BSI committees, so things like things for British standards development, such as the BS 8000 zeros for workmanship, which is obviously quite an important one for clerk of works, those sorts of things, as well as those within my own specialism. So within my role, I've come up through the electrical industry, so I get involved in things like BS 7671, international IEC level for standardization of electrical systems across those sorts of things as well. So yeah, that's just a little bit sort of background
That's
of where
context.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
So in terms of CPD, then obviously it forms part of your working life. As a member of the Institute of Clerk of Works, we have to log our CPD. In other charterships, we do the same. And I often think it can be an interesting subject because some people love it and some people loathe it. But I'm not sure that people often place the value in the right place with CPD. Some people think it's something you've got to do to show your ongoing maintenance of development, which is important. But do people always go, well, that was really good?
Yeah, that's where I'm trying to sort of move with the CPD that I want to try and produce for people. So often I would say a lot of the CPD that people try to do is quantitative. So you turn up somewhere, you go to like a trade show or something, and you look around, you do various things. You might listen to the odd talk about, the latest product, or you might have a manufacturer come and visit a group of you to talk about a particular product and understand those sorts of things, which is fine as CPD because you're learning about something, you're getting sort of a bit of information about something that might be coming to market. But what I'm really looking at is qualitative CPD, something that is more relevant to the specific types of industry and things that people are doing on their daily tasks and roles. I mean, we all come across things where we go to a particular site, and quite often you'll have a lot of the same issues repeating. You'll go and you'll look for these issues, and sure enough, more often than not, you'll come across very similar issues from one site to another. And then obviously those things get shared around with each other in like chats and those sorts of things. So you see WhatsApp groups and groups online. But generally, that's not really CPD. And what I'd like to do is take that qualitative things that people talk about and meet up with people who are looking at these and start producing a group of videos or a set of videos looking at the common issues that people come across, where they tend to find these issues, looking at specific trade sets where they'll often come across these things. Because obviously a lot of these issues transcend not just a single trade. If you're doing something with, for example, my own industry is electrical, so often I'll be looking at things electrical, and there might be issues with segregation and then things like fire barriers going in, which cause issue with those cable systems, which aren't always picked up. And it's not because neither side's done their job. It's the fact that one thing sometimes interferes with the operation of another. And those are the things that, as Clerk of Works, we want to be making sure that we're capturing and getting. So being able to go out and look at these different things, get a few different scenarios, put some video, we can put some good material together where I can have a chat with somebody who's come across this particular issue. They can talk about where they come across it, how they try to deal with those issues. So it's not just about the issue itself, but it's also about how people perform as a clerk of works and how they overcome the issues, and work with, things like the contractors and those sorts of things to get these things put right, and what works, what they found works in the past for them, what they haven't. And all that information is then really useful qualitative detail for a CPD that then somebody can come online, they can watch the video, they can learn more about the clerk of works role, and how it benefits, and, pick up these things that sometimes more often can get overlooked.
Absolutely. I think, interface works quite often when you do CPD as a build person, or alternatively an MEP person, or maybe you're not an inspector at all, maybe you are a tradesperson, or maybe you are a site management person. You tend to look at things in the context of what you need to see.
Yeah,
which is great for CPD, but actually, as we move on in the industry, as the industry develops through the Building Safety Act, etc., it's all about collaborative thinking, and it's all about golden thread. So we as professionals within this industry now need to invest in the interface level of knowledge, not to fully understand everyone else's job, but to understand where someone else's issues may affect or become an issue for yourself.
Yeah.
Another point that you touched on there, which I think is so important, is the ability for people to work together on things. So moving away from someone stamping their feet and there being a bit of a standoff, if you will, over a certain subject, and more towards people saying, well, look, this is how it affects me. How does it affect you?
Yeah.
And I think creating context around those issues is so important. So in terms of how you're going to do that, then I think you're going to need some exposure to sites. I know you've got your own areas, but what would you like to do there?
This ideally,
this might just be a really good window for you to sort of ask.
Absolutely. So obviously there's various sites and things I can do, but what I don't want it to be is just me standing in front of the thing saying this is a thing. What I want to do is I want to see a range of people who are working just, on things on a regular basis, go and talk with them, do some video, show what's going on, and get a wide ranging set of points of view. Because obviously I have my views and those sorts of things there, but that doesn't necessarily mean that my view's always right. You need to have that, that open collaborative approach from people, seeing how people are really working in realistic workplaces. Which, you touched on something earlier on about sort of like the desktop style CPD and those sorts of things, which, like you say, it's good. It's just, but that's what I refer to more as quantitative rather than qualitative. So yeah, what I'm looking for is I need some help with people, or from people, sorry, to invite me to various sites that they're working on where they come across particular issues, where we can go and do a little bit of video, and they can talk about where they come across these sorts of things, how often they come across it, and we can look at then the solutions, how they then deal with that, and then produce some good quality CPD that then we can put up there online, and people can come along and they can see what this particular thing is, and how it affects them, and they'll come across and they'll see from their sites.
Yeah.
And then also the ways they've been dealing with that, then it gives people insight and like, right, okay, so this seems to work quite well when you try and deal with it this way. And yeah, like I say, it's then working with the contractors and those sorts of things, trying to avoid those standoffish type of situations, and make some good quality CPD that affects just the general working practice of clerk of works and those sorts of things.
And the people that clerk of works work with.
Exactly.
I think an important point there is understanding how things have been resolved in the past.
Yes.
It's very, and we're all guilty of it, and I do it because it's really easy to get hits on LinkedIn. You post an issue and you go, what do you think? And people love it because everyone loves an issue, right?
Exactly.
Very rarely, and again, being honest, do I say what the solution was.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's a big part of it. And
huge.
Whenever someone comes to me with a problem, I always go back to them and say, well, what do you think? Why do you think, firstly, why do you think this is a problem? And what do you think the right solution is then to put that forward? And then obviously that starts opening the dialogue, and we start to find the solutions to the problems, put things right. And then, whatever that solution is, then, that thing can be shared, and then it makes it easier for everyone on the whole, because
it could fit another situation, or it could certainly be a strong level of guidance into another situation. Quite often never two circumstances are the same, but the general rule of thumb might be. if nothing else, a massive opportunity for our fellow members of the Institute of Clerical Works who have got a vast amount of knowledge.
Yeah, and it is vast.
Like, it's huge and often untapped to jump on the back of this in a number of ways, I would suggest. One is to invite you to site, to allow them to have some input into situations and to create that context and insight for others. But the other one is as well, on the release of your footage, on the release of your CPD, is to create further talking points and workshops beyond that. You know, I think that's a fantastic thing. Communication is key, and no one, I've said it 1,000 times and I'll say it once more today, no one knows everything, but most people know something.
Exactly.
And if you can create a good team and a wealth of knowledge, then you can't go far wrong. Let's give some examples for people that are wondering what you know, maybe I've got something I could show Spencer, but I'm not sure whether it's the right thing or not. If I create a scenario, you tell me whether it's of use to you. So we do a lot of facade engineering works, a lot of replacement works, and common factors might include compression in abutments in horizontal fire stopping, for example.
Yeah.
Would that be of interest to you?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not looking for things that are specific to anyone. Like I say, my experience was in the electrical industry and those sorts of things, so I can go away, I can do some things myself and those sorts of things, but I don't really want it to be me. Like, I think as a clerk of works, we have, like you say, a range of roles and things that are happening out there, and I want to be able to produce sets of material where if I put something out there, it's going to be relevant to, you know, a particular group. You're talking about fire stopping and facades there. I mean, that's really two types of system there which affect two types of things that are going on, and that can roll into other elements as well. I mean, not just on the facades, but I mean, you get mountains. I'm just thinking about, you know, what electrically wise, if you know what's being mounted there, what's the additional considerations for things like penetrations and those sorts of things there that also should be
extractions.
Exactly. And there's a whole, that it's not just about an individual thing. Construction's about many things trying to come together in one place. So yeah, I mean, if it's something you come across on a regular basis, regardless of what the issue is, if it's a very common issue, then obviously it's something's not quite right happening out there. And the best way to deal with that, I think, is to share that information, share what you've been doing and how you've been going around and getting this sorted. Because at the end of the day, when you put that information out there, it gets spread around, and then hopefully we'll see a large reduction out there because other clerks' works are picking this thing up. Contractors are seeing, right, well, we already know this, but this issue's happening out there. This is our solution. They can build that into the practice as they go. And overall, then we're going to see an improvement across the board, hopefully.
I think so. And it's all about the why, isn't it? So, you know, the stage one, you know, this happens a lot. Why? Well, is it a material issue? Is it an application issue? Is it a timing issue? Is it a design issue? But it'd be really interesting to see, as this develops, the level of input that we get from all of those factors, whether it be manufacturers, whether it be fitters, whether it be managers or coordinators, or whether it be designers, but ultimately to achieve the same goal, which is to mitigate the issue recurrence. So I think it's an incredibly important tool. So, you know, not to push too hard into it, but I can think of too many people to count on my hands that would be excellent at this in my network and within the network of the Institute of Clerical Works. And I think it'd be really good if you could contact Spencer either via the building sites post, which is what we're going to put out, or is there a way that people can contact you directly?
Yeah, they can email me at spencer@gungnia.co.uk.
We'll put that at the bottom as well.
But the key thing about this is the only way this is going to work is if I have other people coming to me and with things that we can go and do and look at and those sorts of things. Without that, this won't be successful. It needs I need that communication. I need to be able to go out and see people. I need to be able to put these things together in that way. So I do really hope that people can come to me and ask, and we can get some things going.
I think they will. One, because we generally work with very good people that want to see change in the industry. That's the first and probably most important point. But the second is nobody loses out here. So once this footage is recorded, once this is put together as CPD, this will offer an insight like no other at the moment that I can think of into specific and recurring issues in the industry. And that has to be worth something, rather than taking a CPD for the sake of it being available, rather than walking around a show and sitting down for an hour and nodding off because actually the first 10 minutes of that presentation were appropriate or specifically appropriate to yourself, and the rest of it not so much, but then claiming the full hour for your CPD record. You know, actually having something that you can get involved with and feel you can move forwards with and transfer those skills into your daily life has to be worth it.
Absolutely, and that's what I really want to see out there more of, and I think we have a distinct lack of that in CPD. And I would really like to push for that, to have something better out there for the members to go and use and review.
I think they would too. In terms of how will you share this information? Have you had any thought on that at the moment? You don't have to sort of give us the addresses and things.
Simply, I was probably going to just create a YouTube channel for it.
Yeah,
of some description.
It works.
And put it out there so it's open. Because then it not only does it then show obviously information for ClerkWorks that they can go to, but it also shows the wider industry what ClerkWorks does and how they're dealing with these things, and what the benefits of actually having a ClerkWorks and those sorts of things is going to be, for clients and contractors and those things on their sites, because you're going to see what we bring to the table in knowledge and experience and these sorts of things, and I think that's really important for that exposure, not just for the institute as an institute of ClerkWorks, but just the idea of the ClerkWorks in general, because I think there's a lot of misconception about what a ClerkWorks is and what they do, and I think this would go a long way to help with that.
I think there's a huge gap in the timeline of the ClerkWorks, if you will. Sort of the early days, obviously integral to projects and building of churches, etc. Then you come through what I call the design and build phase, where they sort of got shoved to one side and they were seen as an unnecessary overhead and a cost. And then lessons learned, you start to see people take a little bit more notice now of a third party auditor with a good skill set, but showcasing the ability, the mindset, the not just in terms of specific skill either, not whether it be MEP build or even all of it taken into consideration, interface, but also the people skills, the sitting, the communication, the ability to have a conversation on any subject matter with a tradesperson, and then transfer that knowledge into a professional report, or then escalate it to a conversation with project directors. Early identification of issues and all these things. It's not just a case of knowing what you're looking at, it's a case of being able to translate that information, relay that information in a meaningful way that assists the project as a whole. And I think demonstrating that value has never been more important.
Well, at the end of the day, ClerkWorks works for the client, and often the client relies upon the expertise of their builders, their contractors, the ClerkWorks, in order to relay the information in a way that they understand and know what's going on, because more often than not, they're not skilled tradesmen and those sorts of things that would have an insight to that level of knowledge. So they rely upon that. So being an effective communicator as a ClerkWorks is a very, very important,
arguably probably the most important part of it. It's great knowing, but if you don't tell anybody, it doesn't really do a great deal, does it? Spencer, there was obviously a point when you realised there was a demand for an improved rather than increased standard of CPD. Sort of talk me through that a little bit. At what point did you go, hang on a minute, I need to do this, there needs to be something better?
So it actually comes back to a scenario I came across on a site, a number of sites, to do with cables being put through deflection heads in installation. And when you look at things like an information within the standards, there's nothing really in there. So the only thing you can take into account is the concepts and the manufacturer's data and information. But again, when you look at things like the metal frame walls from manufacturers and those sorts of things, they don't really say anything about. The only thing you have to take into account is obviously the distance for deflection, and that's all about putting up the the head itself, followed by the positioning of the boards, how far away from the ceiling obviously the board needs to sit, and then obviously the fire strip. So it became a bit of an issue. And then when I was looking for things that maybe people had come across before, I was looking at things like on YouTube, and it was like you were saying, there was a lot of material there which was, I've come across this issue and this is a problem. But it didn't really go into why is it a problem? What's the science effectively behind it? What's the reasoning behind what the issues are? And then what ways can we look at this to correct and work with the issue? So it's one of the things I want to do a CPD on. I'll probably want to get someone else in though at the same time, because I think with the CPD it works better if you've got a couple of people that are sort of interacting with each other while doing it, rather than sitting there and watching somebody talk to you about something. I think having looking at a conversation and seeing the conversation happening is much more well, for me at least, it's much more appeasing when you're looking at those sorts of things. But the big thing is that, like I said, when I was looking at the videos, lots of people put a lot of content and stuff on YouTube which is clearly there to grab attention and get the views and monetize and those sorts of things. And I'm like, we need something where I don't want to do monetization is nice, but I'm not interested in the monetization thing. I think what we really need is, like I say, the qualitative CPD. And I want something out there where people know they can go and they can get something. So ideally, I'd like to be doing something where I can get sort of every month at least one thing that we've talked about with somebody. I've gone out and I've done a bit of a video. Ideally, I'd love to have 2 out by the end of this year to get sort of started, and those sorts of things. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it was the difficulty in finding information in relation to that particular issue. So in the end, obviously, I looked at all the information, and I started making recommendations for the cable installation by, right, what's the deflection head? What's the deflection being calculated at for this deflection head? So when someone drills a hole in the deflection head and they put that cable through, often they'll use like a 20mm gland, it sticks through the middle of it, and then the board's button up to it. And then what was happening, because the reason why I actually came into this was because somebody called me up saying, oh, the power's gone off on these outlets, and it turned out that the building had deflected and crushed the cable.
Chopped itself in half, yeah.
Well, it hadn't chopped it, it had just crushed the cable and broke it. So it wasn't actually cut, and when you pulled the cable out, you could see that it was flattened by the fact that it'd been pressed between.
Probably a good thing it wasn't cut, yeah.
Well, when they cut the hole in the deflection head, they put like a rubber grommet in it. Just to protect the cable from rubbing against the metal and those sorts of things, which is great. I mean, they've thought about the fact that they're putting it in, but they haven't thought about the fact that that part of the building is designed to move up and down, and the boards move up and down with that. So when it's crushed that cable, it's pushed it against the sort of the rubber edging, it's pushed it against the board, and the cable's effectively got broken, and then the power's been tripping out, and it was happening intermittently. So sometimes it would happen, sometimes, and it wasn't until they pulled it out, and then this is where I came up with it. But there's no real guidance out there. It doesn't say anything within BS7601 about, obviously, that. Generally, people say, oh, it's got to be compatible. But when the information from the manufacturer doesn't tell you how to be compatible and those sorts of things, and it's these things that are quite important.
It's the real world factors.
It's real world factors, that get missed.
The fact that there's a 40mm gap there probably means that you need 40mm worth of deflection.
Deflection, yeah.
So if you put a 20mm gland in there,
or is how you shape the board. So the other thing was obviously using when they cut the board for where the cable goes through, if necessary, and if there's no way that you can have it below the deflection, below the metal of the deflection, because obviously the distance it might move, you might be below your gridded ceiling or something. So obviously that's going to be really non-aesthetic. So what other materials can you use in relation with that? So can you use some sort of flexible fire mastic around it? So when it does move, the mastic is the thing that's moving and flexing, rather than the board actually pushing against the cable. So if you've got adequate space around it for that movement, those sorts of things. And those were the sort of things that I started looking at, and then obviously putting forward to people. So when I would see this, I would say, right, well, have you considered this? Can you move it below so you're not going through this, because this is a potential issue that you're going to come across?
Even in the sense that if the ceiling height is a restriction, is there any lateral there? You start pushing back again. I think I mentioned it earlier into the design and saying, look, if we could just lower every ceiling by 30 millimeters, it will not have an impact on the usability of the room, but it will save a huge problem in terms of this routine or whatever it is.
So yeah. I mean, the 30 mil may not seem like a lot, but it depends on the type of lighting stuff as well. If you've done like a study for your light spread and those sorts of things, 30 mil could actually make quite a bit of difference on the 100%. Spread of light. So there's a lot of other considerations that need to be taken.
And that's the point, isn't it? Yeah. It's that conversation and saying, well, no, we can't do that because so we are stuck with this, so now we need to do this, and why and where and what for. The big part, I just want to go back a little bit, the big part of something you just said, and I think is so important because it links into conversations I've had with some of our peers, Jerry Schulbred and Peter, about linking in with education, linking in with the future clerk of works of the industry, or perhaps more specifically linking in with people that are studying a degree in quality and construction or compliance or whatever that might look like, and letting them know how viable of a career a clerk of works role is. The content that you're looking to produce is going to be readily available for those types of people, the people that want to learn, people that want to get involved in. Yeah. And that's because you genuinely care about what you're doing. It's not a sideline. It's not a hustle. You're not trying to make any money out of this per se. This is genuinely being done. This is your thought process to improve the industry. Yeah. And that's so important because there are a lot of CPD providers out there that provide CPD for the sake of it. They charge for it. They create a product that is affordable but necessary because we have to do our CPD. But actually, I think it's incredible and so valuable that this is a resource created out of demand, genuine demand, for people who genuinely need to hear it.
Yeah.
So we need to keep across that, and I think I'd be very interested in keeping in touch with you as this progresses, and we can perhaps, use this platform to let people know that information has become available, etc. And if you will, I'd love to catch up with you in 12 months' time again and sort of say, how's it going, where have we been up to, and in the interim, I'm sure we'll link up as well and look at some projects together. Yeah,
and just for those people that might be querying and questioning, in terms of my time and those sorts of things, I'm not asking for anything from anyone. Literally, this is time I'm volunteering to put these sorts of things together. I'm not asking for any form of reimbursement or those sorts of things. So this really is all about creating good quality content for people. Fantastic. And getting people to be involved and help get that information out there, because I really want to be able to tap that. Like you said, we've got such a huge amount of knowledge within the institute, and I think being able to get that out there and share it on an open medium like that is going to be valuable to everybody across the board, and I'd like to make a mark with that. I really would.
I can't wait for you to do that, and I think it will be everything you said it's going to be. So if you have got something you can help with, please do get in touch with Spencer. Let's discuss this. Let's let the world see the information and the knowledge base that we've got throughout the organisation and through our peers. You don't have to be a member of the ICWCI to get in touch, but we do know that we've got some fantastic operators within that field that can be of assistance. I think that the timing of this is actually impeccable. I do a lot of work within the building safety world under the Building Safety Act, and there's a huge push towards collaborative working, communication-based working, really trying to diminish this segmented approach. And we've talked about that in relative depth earlier in the podcast. So I invite this, and I think it'd be a great resource for a lot of people to consider, not just tradespeople, not just third-party inspectors, but also sort of project managers, project coordinators, anyone involved in putting the gateways together and things, because I think what will come out organically from this process is common interfaces, what common interfaces look like and where those issues lie. So looking at it from a more holistic approach, I think creating a better understanding of where things often go wrong. But then, and we talked about this as well, very importantly, how that can be resolved.
Yeah.
Or thought processes attached to who needs to be involved and why this situation recurs, and the people that are required to find a solution is going to be a very quick shortcut to people saying, well, actually, when I'm putting a gateway 2 application together, it's likely that we're going to have a crisis point here, and we're going to have a crisis point here because I've listened to it, I've learned from it. These are the same methodologies we're using. These are the same types of subcontractors that we're using in terms of how we procure our labour and materials. So let me get ahead of that now, and let me demonstrate using the solutions that have been identified within your product to mitigate that risk early. And that's bigger than perhaps one might think, because that is the whole point of the Building Safety Act, is to cross these problems and design out these common issues before you even get it on site.
Yeah.
So I urge anyone that's watching this to keep your ear to the ground. We'll try and keep you updated. If you could let me know, Spencer, then I'm happy to reconnect with my network on as to as and when this comes out, what it's going to look like. And I just wish you the very best for the future on it, and hopefully I can help you out where possible. And
absolutely, please do.
I will, because I'm greedy and I like to be involved in things, but genuinely for the same reasons as you is, and that is that I believe that if everyone does their bit, we can make this industry a better, safer, more productive product for the built environment, and that's so important.
Yeah. Thank you.